This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm joined by Veronica Ponce from IWCA in Australia. Veronica, thanks for coming back and talking to us again about this very important issue about empowering women and investing in women in the coffee supply chain.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for having me again.
My pleasure. Yesterday, we talked about women at origin. Today, we're going to talk about women on the consuming end of the supply chain. What challenges do women on the consuming end of the supply chain in coffee, what challenges do they face?
Well, it's a very interesting question. And I will start with something quite personal. I come from origin, and we discuss about the issues about women at origin, and not only a farm level, but since I moved here to Australia, I thought the opportunities are equal. There's no inequalities, and no, I find out that it's pretty much the same, but in different levels.
Yep.
There's a lot of discrimination and bias to women at the consumer end. There is less recognition of women working behind a counter. So I think the challenges are basically the same, but in different levels, or how you say, not levels, but different aspects. So yeah, we have rich countries that they have more, opportunities,
freedom, money.
Yeah, and we have access to all these things that could make our lives meaningful and better. But when we're talking about workforce, for example, there is a big issue here. There is gender inequalities, there's work harassment, there's underrepresentation of women leaders. And along that, there's the lack of childcare for those women that are raising families. There's the lack of understanding that they are women mothers, that they need the support. If they are in the workforce, how do you empower them to get back into the workforce, to feel right, that the kids are okay, but and that they won't lose their jobs for having a family, for deciding to raise a family. So it's quite interesting the way how it works, the workforce here in Australia.
Tell me something. I want to draw a correlation between what we spoke about in the last episode of the issues that women are having at origin, the challenges, and what you just mentioned there about women who get pregnant and have challenges on the consuming end of the supply chain. Do women at origin have the same problem when they get pregnant and have families? Do they have problems about finding their way back into the workforce at origin?
Maybe with care, not as much, because they live with big communities. So there is always someone. Yeah, so there is always someone that could help you. Or for example, what you see on film, you will see the women holding their child
on the field where they've got them wrapped around them.
And you see the kids. There's a lot of initiatives where there's schools being built at farm for them, so the kids get dropped and then they go and work. So yeah, there's the difference there. I feel like here in a consumer end, and more if you are trying to raise a family, it's become an issue for corporates. If you so you are the primary care of your kids, you are not going to be fully committed to the job. So there's a bias there, and a stereotype that, okay, so women are meant to be at home, 100% caring for the kids, for your kids. So yes, it's all part of how as a society, it's the culture of, women are still meant to be the primary cares. There's no equal on that,
right? So another interesting one at the consuming end, and this is a pet peeve of mine, of how women, a challenge that women face, is in the roastery. when women are not considered for roasting positions because they can't carry coffee bags?
Well, we don't know that. How do they know that? This is the thing.
Right.
How, but why don't we give, adjustments for women to perform in a roastery? There's ways of putting coffee on top of a roastery. There's ways of adjusting the system for giving opportunity for women to work in a roastery.
Right.
So I get that they try to put, once again, they're saying to you, you women, you're not allowed to do what men are doing. So we are drawing a line that this is only a job for men.
Yep.
So what I feel is like, instead of saying, no, you cannot do this, we should, have a research of how we can, improve the system in our roastery to make it, accessible for women, not only women, people with, that
disabilities, all of it.
All of it, it's more about inclusivity. It feels like, if you don't get the job if you cannot,
carry
lift up
a 60-kilo bag. The bigger point there, I think, also is the men shouldn't be carrying them either. Nobody should be carrying endless amounts of 60-kilo bags all day.
You see at Origin, you see who transport the coffee is men. They put in their bags and they did. So it comes, from a society that men are the ones that transport the coffee,
And we're not saying that's not true, that men are often physically stronger than women. Right? Not all women are physically stronger, but like I got to give a shout out here to Cosimo Lobato. When Cosimo was the CEO of Toby's estate, the first thing that he wanted to implement was to make sure that nobody carried coffee bags, because he wanted to be able to employ females to work across the entire production facility. That he didn't want the strength of a woman to be the barrier to entry for her getting a job, because you miss all the other valuable things that women have to bring to the table if the reason you're cancelling them out is simply that they can't carry a bag of coffee.
Yeah, and so what happens there is that he acknowledged that that's an issue. So acknowledgement of an issue here, to have access to women or marginalized individuals just because they cannot lift off a bag.
Right.
That he acknowledged that there was an issue here, that we are stereotyping the job of a roaster, know. So I feel like, and he did probably his research on how to, make the system work for anyone.
They mechanized it. They made it electronic, so nobody carries coffee bags anymore.
So it's no excuse, if I want to say,
I'm with you. I mean, I talk about that example a lot whenever I'm talking with clients who are like, well, we want to set up a roastery, et cetera, but the talent pool is really small here because, we can't find many men to want to take the job. I'm like, why are you just talking to men? Find a way before you open the roastery to make it so that nobody's carrying coffee bags. And I assure you, your talent pool is going to be filled with fantastic applicants, because if what you're saying is the person who applies for the job has to be able to carry coffee bags, well, you're not going to get the best applicant for the job. You're really not, because you're dismissing every other skill set that's needed to become a coffee roaster.
Yes, and you're narrowing your options too, know. How you promote coffee job is very important these days. I have seen a lot more changing.
Yep.
Where the process of recruiting still stays the same, it's something that we still need to work out as an industry and make sure we prioritize it.
Right.
Because you can promote it as, we are inclusive. It doesn't matter if you cannot carry, the bag.
And it works well for the business.
Is the process along the way is going to be fairly for the women too, like, are you just putting it on the job advertisement for the sake of everyone to know that you are being inclusive, or you are actually having, taking action on taking into account those women that would like to, be part of your company?
Yeah.
And showing your values is important too, you know.
Yeah.
Saying what are your values in the coffee industry as a roaster, for example, what are the values and what you're looking for in the workforce, you know.
You know, something else that I wanted to talk about when we talk about the challenges that women at the consuming end are experiencing. There's, as someone who was a barista for 15 years at the consuming end of the coffee industry, I can tell you a big thing that a lot of women face is bullying and harassment. This is so prevalent, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's not funny. I'm not laughing because
no, I'm not funny. I'm not laughing either.
I'm related.
Yeah, you can relate. Yeah,
I can relate with it as a barista. I can relate as a coffee supervisor, as a coffee manager. I can relate that you get bullied because if you feel confident about doing something, the perception of people is like, you know, different. Like it's not as someone, oh my God, you know, you're having confidence on what you're doing. Let's celebrate that. No, you look bad, you know, you look as the boss, you know, like, or, you know, you get called.
She must be a bitch because she's confident, or it's all the typical stereotypes. This is definitely a challenge that women experience on the consuming end of the supply chain, as well, I assume, as on the producing end of the supply chain.
And, you know, that culture that you create at work, you know, of letting women be called like that or letting women be treated like that needs to change.
Yeah.
For many reasons, you know. We have discussed about how it's important to empower women at origin for the quality we're reaching, but we're also trying to reach quality at the consumer end, no? And as the workflow of a cafe, you know, how, you know, working in a corporate, working in the roaster, your economic growth as a company. It's important to, you know, change that culture inside your company or your small business.
In the next episode, we're going to talk about where is investment most needed, and where are the opportunities to make that investment in the coffee industry for women, because I think that it's great to identify where the challenges are, but in looking to a more, what I think is a hopeful future for women, you know, women like you and I are beneficiaries of the struggles that the generations before us went through. We're able to choose what jobs we want to be a part of, and we're able to open businesses, and we're able to get on a podcast and discuss these kinds of things. The women in my family for generations were never allowed to talk openly about this stuff. So we can't take for granted the very fact that we have the freedom and the opportunity to discuss this. And so let's look into the next episode of being like opportunity focused, and where can people legitimately, because I know that there are a lot of men and women out there and non-binary folks that want to turn around and say, well, we need to change the story. We need to change the dynamic, but I just don't know how to. So let's discuss that in the next episode.
Sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Veronica. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.